One of my favorite Amtrak routes in the northeastern U.S. is the Downeaster. Operated with financial support from the states of Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, the Downeaster travels 145 miles through the northern New England countryside. The train gets its name from the Down East coastal region of Maine. 5 trips a day in each direction are offered between Brunswick, Maine, and Boston, Massachusetts, with 10 additional station stops along the way. The Downeaster made its debut on December 15, 2001, with 4 round trips that only operated 116 miles between Boston and Portland, Maine. Service was expanded north from Portland to the current end terminus of Brunswick in 2012. Equipment used on the Downeaster includes Amfleet 1 style coaches and cafe cars, a P42 DC locomotive, and a non-powered control unit, which is Amtrak's term for a fleet of former F40PH locomotives that have been gutted and repurposed as combination cab cars with storage space for baggage. A standard Downeaster consist includes a P42 locomotive on the north end, 3 or 4 coaches, a cafe car, and a non-powered control unit bringing up the south end of the train. Soon, new Aero train sets built by Siemens Mobility will replace the older equipment. In the spring of 2025, I got my first chance ever to document the Downeaster in depth from the Portland area all the way south to Boston. In this video, I'll give you a tour of the route as we follow the Downeaster from Maine to Boston and return. We begin our journey along the route of the Downeaster in Portland, Maine, as southbound train 684 enters town. This train originated in Brunswick and is now about 25 miles into its southbound journey. Train 684 will proceed to the south side of the city and then make its station stop in Portland. Portland's Transportation Center opened in 1996 as a bus station and 5 years later for Amtrak Downeaster trains. With the extension of Downeaster service northward from Portland to Brunswick in 2012, a reverse move was required for all trains when stopping at the Portland station. The station was built on a secondary line that branches off from the main Boston to Brunswick rail corridor. As a result, trains can only enter the station from the south, so trains from Brunswick must proceed past the switch to the secondary line and then reverse directions to reach the transportation center. Once the station stop in Portland is complete, the train changes directions again to continue its journey south to Boston. This process occurs in reverse for northbound trains. Delays caused by the extra switching move have led to a push to relocate Portland's train station to the main line. In this cold winter scene from January of 2015, train 694 approaches the junction with the main line as it heads south for Boston. 690 series numbers are used for Downeaster trains that run on weekends, and 680 series numbers are used for trains on the weekdays. Maine's rocky coastline is guarded by several lighthouses, including the Cape Elizabeth Lighthouse, located just south of Portland. A lighthouse was first built at this location in 1828. The current tower, built to replace the original structure, dates back to 1874. Not long after departing Portland, the Downeaster passes through the town of Scarborough. Immediately south of Scarborough, the line passes through a series of marshes along the Nonsuch River. Train 688, the last southbound of the day, approaches the Winnick's Neck Road crossing just before 7 p.m. Train 696 rolls through Old Orchard Beach on a cold winter day. Old Orchard is a seasonal stop for Downeaster trains. From mid-October through mid-May, trains continue on through without stopping. The next two station stops for the Downeaster are at Saco and Wells. A couple miles south and west of the Wells Amtrak station, a Downeaster equipment move rolls by, taking an Amfleet passenger car back to Boston for servicing. This section of the route was recently double-tracked by CSX Transportation, the freight rail company that owns the line. At South Berwick, Maine, the Downeaster crosses the Salmon Falls River. This river marks the state border between New Hampshire and Maine. From here, the train will continue a few miles to Dover, where it will make its first of 3 station stops in New Hampshire. After making 2 additional stops at Durham and Exeter, the Downeaster flies through Newton Junction, New Hampshire as it nears Massachusetts. Shortly after crossing the state border, the Downeaster makes a station stop at Haverhill, Massachusetts. Haverhill is billed as one of the oldest settlements in the state, tracing its roots all the way back to 1640. It was officially incorporated as a city over 2 centuries later in 1870. In addition to serving the Downeaster, Haverhill Station is the northern terminus for the MBTA commuter rail Haverhill line from Boston. After departing the station southbound, trains roll across the big bridge over the Merrimack River. The through truss sections date back to 1919, while the bridge piers themselves were constructed in the 1880s. On the other side of the river, the Downeaster passes through the village of Bradford and the MBTA Bradford commuter station. The railroad continues southwest along the Merrimack River as it nears Lawrence, Massachusetts. Southbound Downeaster train 682 passes through downtown Lawrence. The large brick building in the background is the Wood Mill building, constructed in 1906 to process wool. At the time, it was said to be the largest wool processing mill in the world. A clock tower from the neighboring Ayer Mill, built in 1909, can also be seen in the distance, and is one of the world's largest clock towers. Downeaster train 680 swings around a big curve in Lawrence as it passes through the former Pan Am rail yard. As the Downeaster heads for Boston, it passes through several suburban commuter stations. In the town of Wilmington, the Downeaster splits off from the MBTA Haverhill line and uses the 3-mile-long Wildcat branch line to switch over to the MBTA Lowell line for the rest of the trip into Boston. At Woburn, Downeaster train 688 makes a very brief station stop. This is the last intermediate station before Boston. The 3-hour, 20-minute journey on Amtrak's Downeaster comes to an end at Boston North Station. This is one of two major downtown train terminals in the city. All other Amtrak trains arrive and depart from South Station, which can be reached by a short ride on one of MBTA's subway lines. Because of this, the Downeaster is unique among Amtrak trains in that it is completely isolated from the rest of the Amtrak network. No stops along the entire route are shared with another Amtrak train. North Station was originally constructed in 1893 but has been rebuilt multiple times over the years. Currently, the space above the station concourse is occupied by Boston's TD Garden Arena, home to both the Boston Bruins and the Celtics. All Downeaster train sets that arrive into North Station reverse direction to return north to Brunswick. Train sets are stored overnight at a newly constructed facility next to the Brunswick Station. For more involved inspection and repair work, cars and locomotives are shuttled to the Amtrak Southampton Yard in Boston. Train 685 begins its journey back to Maine as it departs North Station and crosses over the Charles River. Back in Lawrence, the Downeaster passes through the old Pan Am rail yard. On a cold winter day, a northbound Downeaster passes under Interstate 495 in Lawrence. Approaching the station in Haverhill, Amtrak Train 681 crosses over the Merrimack River. In New Hampshire, the Downeaster comes flying by the old Boston and Maine station in East Kingston. A bridge pier from a long-abandoned Boston and Maine rail line can be seen in the foreground as northbound train 683 leaves New Hampshire and enters the state of Maine. At North Berwick, the Downeaster passes another old Boston and Maine train station. Train 687 has just departed Old Orchard Beach as it crosses over the Scarborough River. In South Portland, the Downeaster passes through a CSX rail yard. The Portland Transportation Center is only a few minutes away. While most of the line south of Portland was formerly owned by the Boston and Maine Railroad, the last 30 miles from Portland to Brunswick were once part of the Maine Central Railroad. We get one final look at the Downeaster on the line north of Portland at Yarmouth Junction as it crosses an out-of-service branch line to the Port of Portland. From here, the Downeaster will make its last two stops at Freeport and Brunswick, bringing its 3-hour and 20-minute journey to a close. Thanks for coming along for this look at Amtrak's Downeaster. As always, a special thanks to all my supporters on Patreon. Do you have any thoughts on the Downeaster you'd like to share with me? Post them below in the comments section. If you would like notifications whenever I post to YouTube, click on the subscribe button and select the Receive All Notifications option. I'll be back next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time for a brand new railroading adventure right here on the YouTube channel. That's it for now. Until next time, I'm Mike Armstrong. I'll see you down the line. Thanks for watching.